let's talk to Ryan Sabey, who is Deputy Political Editor at The Sun. He's got a big piece in the paper today about Rachel Reeves and how she's trashed the economy. Ryan, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
I'm thinking, well, just before we start talking about Rachel Reeves, we should tip our hats to Ozzy Osbourne. A great front page today, the wonderful Wizard of Ozzy. Ozzy Osbourne, I don't know if you were a Black Sabbath fan. Not everybody was, but 100 million records sold, and a true sort of British icon. A lot of people said to me this morning, I'm surprised he actually lasted as long as he did, given some of the things that happened to him. But he was also the first kind of reality TV star, wasn't he?
Yeah, massive character. My condolences to the family. There's a great piece in the paper today by Simon Cousins, who interviewed Ozzy Osbourne. Did one of the last big interviews with Ozzy just at the end of last year, which is definitely worth reading. But I go back, probably going back 20 years or so, aren't we, for that TV show with the Osbournes. We saw, everything about their lives, and they invited the cameras, and it was one of those sort of very early reality TV shows. But they were big stars. They weren't social influencers or anything like that. This was them just getting on with their daily lives, and there's packed full of stuff on Ozzy Osbourne today.
And I was lucky enough to get to know Sharon quite well during the time that she was working at TalkTV, because we used to work together on a couple of shows, and she was fantastically funny, really irreverent, just hilariously indiscreet. She knew stories about people that I could never repeat because they'd probably be libelous, but I mean they were all true, because she knew everyone, from sort of Elton John down to the royal family. She knew all the Hollywood superstars. Johnny Depp was a mate of hers. I remember when Johnny Depp came to play guitar with Jeff Beck a couple of years ago, in the midst of the whole kind of Amber Heard case, she went down to see them in their dressing room. She was brilliant. Yeah,
no, the thing that stands out with me with Sharon Osbourne is when she was on the judges on X Factor, I think it was, very to the point. Her brutal comments to some of the contestants, but she was honest with them, and she was honest with she is honest with the viewers. So my thoughts with her this morning as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Great front page and great coverage. Let's talk about your piece on page 10. Rachel Reeves, if she was heading into the summer break with a huge headache, things just got a whole lot worse, is what your intro says. There's talk of, and you give her a kind of marks out of 5 on all of the things that she's got to look at in terms of how she might try and get some money back. But I mean, she appeared in front of the Lord's Economic Affairs Committee yesterday and didn't look like somebody who knew what she was going to do.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a very, very difficult summer. I think the Chancellor, along with her advisors, will be weighing up all those options before the autumn budget. And as what she herself said the other week, that the low-hanging fruit, those sort of easy pickings that when she came into office to try and raise some money, whether it was the national insurance hike on business, there's only so many times you can go back to the well on that, because confidence in the business community has been hit by that. So it'll be interesting to see where she goes. Now, many people do expect on income tax for those thresholds to be frozen as well. But the problem with that, it may not seem like money being put on income tax, a penny or two income tax. But what happens is more and more people get dragged into paying those higher bands of tax. So it may not seem like a tax rise today, but later down the line, as more people having to pay it, there may be a raid on pensions as well. So what she's got to try and do is just try and find ways to raise cash, because the trouble is when we get to that autumn budget, it may well be the case that if the independent watchdog, the forecast through sort of maps out how much money she's got available, and then sort of marks her homework, may downgrade, will probably downgrade the UK growth forecast. So that's going to play into that as well. And don't forget as well, the big debt problems in this country is going to basically cost about £110 billion just to sort of service that debt this year, which is more than what we pay on the education budget. It's costing us a lot of money. So lots for the Chancellor to think about this summer. If and when she gets a break.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look at what she said to the Lord's Economic Affairs Committee, very awkwardly, I'd have to say.
At the same time, we also have a challenging economic inheritance with high levels of tax as a share of GDP, historic high levels of government debt, and then also economic growth that really for the last 15 years has been very poor by historical standards because of the weak productivity growth that we've experienced in that period of time.
I mean, she doesn't look for all the world like somebody who knows what she's doing or feels confident about what she's about to do or even understands the damage that she's even done to the economy. She still seems to be in denial that it's all the fault of somebody else.
Yeah, there's some of those big decisions that she made early on, and I think one of the problems is that they've gone down several roads to make either retreats, U-turns. We can go back to winter fuel, which was, there was a lot of controversy over that, over the winter fuel payments for the elderly. There's a partial retreat over that. And she's got to make the sums add up. I think one of the interesting things that she did say, and this points back to where this government, this country has had problems for many, many years, is productivity. Productivity and investment in productivity has been really, really low. And that needs to be moved around. And I think most governments recognise that productivity has gone down. But it's actually going to take this government, with lots of investment in human capital, research, all this kind of thing, just to try and get things moving, to try and make us a little bit more productive. And she said that she's not going to cut those research sort of budgets because that will be short-sighted. But she's got, there are big problems ahead, and there's economists are saying that she may have to find around 20 or 30 billion pounds just to fill that black hole. Right. So it's going to be tough.
Well, it is, because, I mean, the problem is that the problem with left-wing governments is that they cannot generate growth and productivity simply by putting public money into things. What they have to do is they have to release the kind of the private sector in order to encourage investment in that. So that if they put taxes down and they drop national insurance as opposed to putting them all up and making it go the other way, there might be some confidence in the markets, but there isn't any right now. And in the leader column, it says here, borrowing costs are the highest in this country now since 1998. More borrowed in June at any time since records began, except during COVID. Everybody's now saying, we're going to talk to Liam Halligan, I think, later on in this hour from the Telegraph. Every economist is now saying that we are perilously close to where we were back in the 1970s, where we had to go cap in hand to the IMF to borrow more money.
Yeah, I mean, there was an incredible quote from the Chancellor when effectively she was saying that Britain is relying on the kindness of strangers just to buy our government bonds, which I think is not a great place for Great Britain to be in, just to sort of rely on people just to buy our debt. But I think one thing, you talk about business confidence there, Mike, I just wonder whether when we get to the budget, whether Rachel Reeves has to send a signal to the business community. I know she raised national insurance. Does she send a signal that she'd like to bring it down in 3 years? Is there a signal that she'd like to bring corporation tax down by the end of the Parliament? So I think there are signals that she has to get across just to say that she's on the side of business. Don't forget, we've got that workers' right package coming up, and that's going to be rolled out over the next 2 years.
That's not going to be very helpful either, is it?
It's going to be really, really tough for business. We've had a lot of backlash from business on that. So I think as well as trying to fill that black hole, which could be up to £30 billion, I think she also needs to send a signal that she's partially on the side of business.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help when Keir Starmer keeps deluding himself and everybody else by saying, business confidence is at a 9-year high, which it isn't. Simply absolutely untrue. This is a great column. Ryan, thank you very much indeed. Ryan Sabey with the big page 10 today. Labour has wrecked the economy. Here's how you might be made to pay. Well, I think the people of this country are not willing to pay for her wrecking of the economy, particularly since most of the money that seems to be going out